Hello. My name is Riina Hellstrom. I come from Finland. I've been working my whole career for quite a long time with organizational development, management development, and people systems, if you may. I was working in large organizations for 10 first years, but with a background from sports, from team sports, with a background for natural sciences. I've been studying chemistry, and with a background from systems thinking. I was looking at these corporations and just thought, oh my God, there's so much nonsense going on here, I just can't continue with this. So what I did, I jumped the ship and I started my own company about 8 years ago. And what actually got me to start my company is that I read the Scrum Guide, which finally described a way of working which is very adaptive, very open. It is built on constant feedback loops. Everything that is in nature was basically in the idea of Scrum, Agile, and adaptive ways of working. That's when I realized that this is going to be much more than just software. It was 8 years ago, so that was mainly just talking about that in software. So I decided to quit my job and start a company focusing on what Agile means for organizations, management, HR, and other support functions, because that's my backyard. And I started networking with, with Agile people, first in Finland and then abroad, and they were all like, you know what, you're HR, stay as far away as possible from our thing. We do software development here, don't come near us because you're just ruining everything. Anyone who feels that way currently? Yeah, a bit. HR has been the biggest stone in the shoe for a long time. And what I told these guys, mostly guys, I was like, you just go on with your Agile, wait for a couple of years until you start scaling that across teams, and what you will hit are everything that I sit on. Incentives, performance management, organizational design, management development, you name it, that's what HR is working with. And if you look at the recent State of Agile report, listen to these teams. Challenges experienced while adopting Agile. First one, organizational culture is at odds with Agile values. Everything with management and HR. General organizational resistance to change. There isn't a resistance to change, by the way. That's a stupid idea that there is resistance to change. People are smart, people resist things that doesn't make sense for them, which means that they need to learn it. Inadequate management support and sponsorship. That's also things that HR is working with, and management, of course. So, and the fourth one, lack of skills, experience with Agile methods. Lack of skills goes into the fifth one, thank you very much. Goes into the fifth one, insufficient training and education. Who sits on that? HR. So dudes, if I can go back 8 years back in time, I can say, did I tell you so? So I'm very happy to be here today. What I'm going to share with you, that's about my company. I work with People Geeks. It's a networked consultancy, so we do help in change, in transformation with Agile and other stuff as well. We train, facilitate, and we got people analytics on board as well, so putting data and facts on large corporations, people, culture, and management issues to the business. HR. Oh, we don't want them close to us because they're just ruining everything. This is the normal reaction. And if you think about HR, the people who haven't worked in HR just do not know the architecture of HR. It's this, I'm thinking of it as a system. As you guys who are building software or large systems, raise your hand. Any architects around? Raise your hand. Very few architects. It's like an architecture for me, on the organization, on the structure, how the behavior of different levels, the culture, nuances. It's an architecture, and there is a legacy there, and there are behaviors and habits that you need to start changing. And when changing a code in an organization, so to say, you need to know what you start to change so that doesn't break, and how you get people involved, etc. So HR and organizational development is all about a system for me, and you need to know that legacy to be able to start breaking and changing that in a fruitful and valuable way. Here, that's just part of the list that is very normal in organizations. Once you start working in agile ways, so many of these need to change because they're actually hindering scale agile. And now I'm not talking about safe, I'm talking about scaling agile. Agile ways of working across the organization. And one thing that caught my eye in the previous talks was there needs to be management buy-in. And I disagree with that. Not buy-in. They really need to get this. They need to understand this deeply because they have been working their careers, whole careers, for 30 years built on a Tayloristic, top-down command control way of working. How could they ever get buy-in if they don't get the new way of working, like really deeply, heart, hand, soul, mind, brain? So I've been asking by executives, can you come in and just have an executive 1-hour summary of this agile thing for us? I'm like, no, that won't go anywhere. Can you come and train this agile thing? We got 2 hours in the board meeting. No, we need a day, at least a day, for you to really get it. So if they don't get it, how could they ever lead these systems to support the agile way of working? Of course they can't. Of course, that's why inadequate management support and sponsorship is on the list, because they don't understand it. How could management executives be anything different from teams that needs to learn agile? They are not. So all of the organization requires help and support from people who can really make that mindset shift. I'm going to talk about 2 cases, very kind of run through them. First of all, getting really practical. Performance management is usually the first one that I am asked about. Okay, what do we do with performance management? First of all, Agile HR is not a recipe. There is not a right answer. It's not like, here's safe, do this with your HR. You need to be looking at it like an architect. Where is your company at? Is it big? Is it in what kind of business situation is it? What kind of business models? What kind of products or services are you buying? What kind of talent market are you in? Because those are giving you the frame where you can work within with Agile HR. Performance management. Gaming company, approximately 400 people, European. They wanted to renew their performance management, but they really didn't know what they want. This is what they knew. Current reality check. Where is your current reality? Here. We had discussions with the management. This is what they came up with. So these are the questions I asked, basically, and this is what they came up with. You will get this later on. They wanted us to focus on the future instead of the past. Basic performance management, always once a year you look backwards and think about that. You sit down with your wife or your husband once a year, right before a certain nice date. You pick a date and you sit down. Now I'm going to evaluate your husbandship for the last year. And you were a 3. Yes, from everything what happened during the year, that's a average 3. That's as ridiculous as the performance management is working in companies. How could you ever have a person who doesn't know very much about what you're working with, who doesn't follow you every day, who doesn't maybe know even the area you're working in, and evaluate you for the whole year in every situation and every system and every dependencies where you've ever been? That's what we're doing with people in corporations, and that's pretty silly, if you put it that way. Focus on having ongoing feedback loops. So not just once a year, constant feedback so people can grow. Cycle time. doing timely things instead of waiting, low performance intervention. They had some low performance and usually it took too long before they actually could start helping them or helping them out the door. Connected to career paths, they recently developed career paths, and this is a situation where I was asked to help. We have these needs, but we don't know how to move forward. So what I usually do is I use Agile. I use Agile and lean ways of working because I don't know either. I can't come and say, I heard somebody mention a big six consulting company here. They would come in with 100 PowerPoint plan. Here's your new performance model. This is how you will implement it. Here's the change milestones. Here is how we will do it. I went in with, I don't know, let's start looking at this. So let's form a first pathway forward. This is like the really ugly slides that I was showing. You're seeing the real thing. The ugly slide I was showing the HR. Let's make a plan. Let's make a first model. Talk about that with main stakeholders, see what they think. Then after that feedback, we'll make a model 0.2. Then after that, we will have crowdsourcing. We will have a demo with 0.2 and see what your people think about that. After that, we will have a 0.3 and see if that's any better. So just doing whatever we all know how to do this with performance management as well. We would do a beta version of the 0.3. We will have some tools configured. After holidays, we would have some people testing the beta version. So a couple of teams are vertical, testing the performance management model. This is how we started. This is the first one, 0.1 model. These were just basic expectations of the model that we actually discussed with main stakeholders. Just about the strategic goal, the continuous improvement, and the long-term growth. These are the kind of boxes that we divided it in. And we got pretty good feedback about this. Yeah, these are, if we look at principles that we want to have in the system, this sounds good. I'm not going to go into those details. You will get the point. It's more important about how we did this than what's in that slide. Because you can't copy things into your company. Of course, ideas are good. Then we went, this was the 0.1 version. This was discovered then, or have feedback with main stakeholders. They said, yes, go ahead. And this was our model number 0.2. A lot of stuff there. We started with strategic target setting, how that would be done in a gaming company. That was pretty tough because how do you make long-term strategies when games come up like this and your basically business is disrupted every single week? So they really realized that they need to look into that a little bit more. They had financial targets for every studio and every game, of course. Then this is what I brought in, is that you don't need an extra performance management system on top of Agile, because Agile includes the performance management system. You got targets, you got feedback, you develop as a team. You have everything there to grow and make a better performance with the team. That's all about Scrum. That's everything what Scrum is about, to create amazing performing teams that grow and continuously learn. So it's all there. So use peer feedback, team feedback, retro, self-evaluation, and create transparency with OKRs maybe. OKRs, do you know that? Objectives and key results from Google. Quite a good model to look into. And then what was missing from there, of course, from the Agile cycle, is the long-term growth of people. Career path, looking into what I should be learning as an individual. So we added that as a third element, where we had the idea of top experts sparring you and some career coaching. And every person should have an individual development plan, IDP, all the time. So they would continuously follow an IDP. This is a 0.2 model. What we then did was pretty awesome. We had a demo. We, of course, did not show this awful slide, but there were company designers that designed this into a nice slide set with all of their stories and blah, blah, blah. And we had a demo. 160 employees came to that demo. It was an invitational demo, not you have to be here. And we asked them questions. We showed them parts of this model, and we asked them, it's great to have teams and individuals decide on their target setting frequency themselves. Fully disagree and agree. So we got validation. Yes, this is a good principle. And the people who were loud and disagreeing, these 3%, some of them were really loud, realized that, oh, okay, most of the people think this is a good idea. So it's not just getting validation, it's also selling the model. The employee, him herself, is responsible for keeping their development vision and next steps updated. So actually putting the development on the individual, saying here are the options in the company, but you are responsible for your development. And you need to take that responsibility with the help of the feedback you get, with the help of expert sparring, with the help of career coaching, and with the help of your manager. You need to be in charge, because we can't do that anymore. The industry is so fast. Yes, people agreed. Results, we got some biggest concerns of the model. There were 41 answers, and the loudest ones got the possibility to write their answers here. Brilliant, because this feedback would have came to us anyway, so we got it really early. And what we did with 0.2 after the feedback is that we went from this to a very scaled down model. We cut those light ones away. So we learned a lot, and this is what they started with. So the front end for the employee for version 0.3 was basically this. The manager is responsible for, together with their teams, setting key results. And they decide on the cycle time themselves. 2, you will get a lot of feedback and expected to give a lot of feedback every day. So feedback was built in all around. The teams will constantly develop their work together. This is from the Agile thinking, continuous improvement. That was built into Agile. You're responsible for keeping up an up-to-date individual development plan, and you will ask to talk with your manager when it's time to have a development discussion. It's not a must-have, it's a when it's valuable for you. This was the front end. So this is what they started to build. If we look at if we look at the value propositions that the stakeholders wanted, we were fulfilling 4 of them. We were not fulfilling low performance interventions like directly, because we think that low performance interventions happens in the everyday continuous improvement cycle, there with the feedback. Here's where they took over themselves, so I helped them to that point, and they said, yes, now we have a model, now we can start the testing. So they are now testing 0.3 with a couple of teams. They're expanding to another team. They're looking into tools. They tried 2 different IT tools. I can't even remember which ones they were. They were not happy with them, so they're trying a new one. They are still facing a bit of difficulties with finding good targets other than financials for the studios. The feedback culture is now much better than previously. And yeah, that's about it. The managers are happy because they are not feeling the pressure anymore. I have to have my 40 development discussions twice a year. It's, yes, I can help you whenever you have the need to have a development discussion, let's have one. It changes the way you're working and communicating. So my key learnings from this case was that you shouldn't go in with a model in your head. Instead, you should use validation and testing so that you can come up with something that really works in that company. And again, find a way to validate that even in real life. So now they are testing that. and it looks much better than their earlier one. My key learning is also that the client doesn't really know what they are asking for. Sounds familiar? Yeah? They got plenty of ideas and plenty of needs that you have to challenge. But together together with the client, so they are in the driver's seat. They feel that they are owning this. If I would have been driving this, the balls would have dropped immediately when the consultant leaves. So keep the client in the driver's seat. Great. Case 2. I was asked to be very practical. This is me being very practical. I'm not even defining Agile HR for you. A big company, 14,000 people. This is a unit with 400 people scattered around the world. They are moving from a hierarchical organization towards a team of team structure. And here you can see, if you've read Stanley McChrystal's book about team of teams, it's a really good book. I recommend it. And there's an idea how the US Army, the Special Forces, started using this in Afghanistan. They wanted to move into a team of team structure where teams have very big independence and work in a network of teams. But you can't go there immediately, so what did we do here then? There was the CEO or SVP contacting me and said, can you help me? We need to move with this. And I said, yes, I can. Let's start moving. And I'll give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 what we did. First, getting executives and managers truly to understand what this means. And now I mean truly. I said, I'm not going to do 1-hour executive summary about this. I need 2 days. We have a 2-day workshop where they are building, here you can see them building the vision out of Lego. Communicating about that. Talking about what really is the vision for this unit, what are we here to do, how does it connect to strategy, what do we need to change, and really building metaphors out of it. Such a good way of creating meaning together, creating shared consciousness. After this workshop, they knew where they're heading, but they had no idea how. Then, how can you make people really learn something? Is to make them do it. So we set up the strategic management, the whole strategy, all the streams. We started using Kanban for that, making it transparent to the whole company, which was unheard of previously. So everyone in the company knew which strategic elements were worked on when and who was owning them. And it was really tough for the management to see that they are over-optimistic on things, what are going to move forward. We set this Kanban up with stories that are less than 1 month, so they should pick stories for the next sprint, and those should be able to be done in 1 month. But they couldn't just really keep up the velocity or pace, so it was really good learning for them, is that if they can't do this, and how this works, and how you need to communicate, and how much everything is much clearer, and how dependencies can be discussed, really good, recommend it, even for management. We started communicating, so of course, the people had been promised a team of team structure and strategy was out, and they were like, okay, can we start moving? When is it our turn soon? But there wasn't a lot happening. We were basically preparing the organization for this, so we are, So we started communicating with bi-weekly communication, with videos, with management cascading information as well to them. Very important to start communicating and working with the expectations of the employees. Expectations were set really clear that this is going to be started in a small scale and then expanded, and that we are preparing with the management and preparing with the processes to be able to allow this. So working with expectations, but constantly keeping the vision very clear. After that, we had simultaneous kickoffs in all of the countries, and this was a kind of a tricky thing to manage because as a professional facilitator and coach and trainer, I of course could have gone to every country and trained, but again, then it's consultants doing it, it's not the people themselves. So what we did instead, created a concept for the manager, a facilitation concept of 2 hours, that they needed to facilitate themselves for their people locally. And we had trained the trainers for them, So they had to participate in trainer to be able to feel secure of facilitating that. We had one-on-one help for managers who didn't feel secure, so they could call us and discuss it. So they set up great workshops in every country, and we had a global kickoff for this at the same time, and that was really beautiful. Really beautiful to see managers step up and take that responsibility of workshopping with their teams. Transparency throughout this case. We had a rule: if there isn't a reason for something to be secret, it should be transparent. 1 minute. Good. We also had many LT meetings. We weren't far ready from starting this, because the leadership team there was so many things coming up that they were insecure of and saw as problems. So we worked a lot with the LT team, and this took about half a year, working with the management team, the processes, practices. We worked with the incentive structures. We designed the incentive structure for that unit as well. And then I said, now it's time. Now it's time for the unit leader, the senior vice president, to say, I'm not leading this anymore. You guys are. I'm not going to be the only one talking about this. You guys will. So we had one workshop, major leadership workshop, where we had all the leaders, 50 people, anybody who had a managerial role, and said, you guys are now the ones leading it, and now we're going to plan how we're going to do it. So what they did was they actually replanned what management and being a leader means, from going from this model to this model. We actually replanned it in the room, so they did the thinking together. They decided how decision-making will happen from this model to the other model. They talked about the leadership guiding principles. We set principles on how they should lead from now on. They did it themselves. We did a minimum viable product of the team of teams team. So if you as a manager can let go of control of a team, what are the minimum things those teams need to be responsible of and have expertise in, or get help to? We created leadership as a service. Anybody heard of that? Leadership as a service for the teams. So if they are lacking something, if they're feeling insecure, they should be able to get leadership as a service. We need some financial advice, or we need some other advice. We created that list. Beautiful workshop, people working nicely. How's it going? I have never been as glad as I was when I called the client a month ago and said, how are you doing? We're doing great. We have no problems. What? Really? How is that possible? Yeah, 3 teams started working, 3 more teams in Q2. We changed this a little bit, but all the managers know that this will change, and they've been in and planning this together. So they really are working this way right now. And it's followed up transparently throughout the unit. I think it was beautiful. Facilitating organizational change is an art. It is not a recipe. Thank you.